Disgrace. £100,000 is a disgrace for what he'd done. I think it's just taking a complete liberty. Like, you know, the Boxing Board of Control want to have that stance and say, well, this is what it is, £100,000 fine. You know, the Boxing Board of Control need to behave in a correct manner. You know, when
he had the right to appeal that as well, but I'm not sure he did.
Well, no, maybe he should have, because I think I don't agree with it. I think
Spencer Oliver launched a scathing attack on the British Boxing Board of Control, BBBC, after they slapped Chris Eubank Jr. with a staggering £100,000 fine. He called the decision an absolute disgrace, labeling it a shameless cash grab that had nothing to do with fairness and everything to do with power. According to Oliver, this was less about enforcing rules and more about making an example out of Eubank Jr., punishing him in a way that went beyond reason. He insisted that Eubank had every right to appeal, but questioned why he should even have to in the first place. On the other hand, Gareth A. Davies fired back, arguing that the fine was completely justified, a direct consequence of Eubank's own actions. He maintained that rules are rules.
I believe Chris is going to win.
But you don't want Conor Benn to win, do you?
Listen, I want Chris to win.
Why?
Because of certain situations, I want Chris to win.
You've been very tough on him on the last 2.5 years.
Not tough, mate.
Yeah, no, he's been exonerated. I think you've been very strong the whole way on it. Let's not get a microphone slapped out of my hands.
Let me say this. Let's do this. He's been cleared. It's a difference. He's been cleared.
He's been exonerated, yeah.
He's not proved his innocence. He's been cleared. Let's make this right. Let's put it on the line. That's where we're at with it.
Rules, and that Eubank isn't above them. However, the debate runs deeper than just this fine. It's about control, authority, and the ever-growing influence of boxing politics behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Oliver didn't hold back when criticizing Conor Benn, refusing to let the issue of his failed drug test fade away. He insisted that no amount of PR could cover up Benn's past mistakes and accused the system of letting him off too easily. According to Oliver, being cleared to fight is not the same as proving innocence. The entire ordeal, he argued, reeked of favoritism and questionable decisions, something that should never be overlooked in a sport like boxing. Gareth A. Davies, however, strongly opposed Oliver's stance, dismissing his accusations as an unnecessary attack. He insisted that Benn had been cleared through the proper legal channels and deserved the opportunity to...
Chris Eubank really campaigned at super middleweight down to middleweight, and Conor Benn a super lightweight coming up to welter. So a huge weight difference between them, I would say sort of 2, 3, 4 years ago. But Conor has grown into the sort of higher divisions, and he walks around as quite a big guy. But yeah, physically and naturally, the structure is that Eubank is a much bigger guy. But Eubank believes he's more skillful than Benn. Benn believes he'll walk through him and crush him, and maybe there's revenge for the end.
Move forward and compete without being perpetually dragged through past controversies. The tension between Oliver and Davies was palpable, adding even more fuel to the already heated build-up surrounding Benn's upcoming fight. The real question remains: will Benn's past continue to haunt him, or will he silence his critics with a statement performance in the ring? Adding to the drama, Adam Smith openly voiced his frustration over the escalating tensions within the sport. Despite maintaining a technically amicable relationship with other key figures, Smith made it clear that he wasn't convinced by their claims of ignorance. He didn't hesitate to call out what he perceived as a sneaky attitude, stating bluntly that he didn't buy the narrative of unawareness regarding the ongoing developments. His irritation was evident as he admitted to being overly accommodating, only to be met with dismissals and subtle disregard. However,
the walk, let alone the fight part, it takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of heart, mental strength. It's a huge thing in boxing.
It's a big thing in life, even outside of boxing, right? In business and in all, I think, great endeavors. Do you think it's something that you can, from what you've seen in the gym, something you can teach or train?
On a lighter note, Smith also reflected on some humorous exchanges he'd shared with the same individuals. Even amid the growing tension, there was still room for laughter, and he jokingly hinted at the possibility of joining them on boxes B. This left fans wondering whether it was just a casual remark or something more serious in the works. Despite the underlying friction, a complex connection remained between the involved parties, leaving many unanswered questions hanging in the air. The drama isn't over yet, and only time will tell what happens next. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to like the video. Chris Eubank Jr. isn't holding back when discussing what it takes to step into the ring ahead of his high-stakes fight with Conor Benn. According to him, it's not just about physical preparation, it's about mental fortitude. Eubank Jr. boldly states
that bet can go ahead between the promoters as a promoter bonus.
Really?
So, for me, Eddie made that bet, Eddie made that offer. Whether we call it a bonus, whatever we want to do, the other one camp will pay the other camp $1 million if it loses, and the other camp should pay the other camp $1 million if it loses. We're on, I'm on, there's a way to do it. I know he's going on about all these rules now that I was sort of reminding him of at the time.
That even the walk to the ring demands an immense amount of mental strength, guts, and heart. You can have all the skills in the world, but if your mind isn't right, you're finished, he says, emphasizing how crucial mental strength is not just in boxing, but in life. It's not just a lesson he's learned in the gym. It's a life lesson, one he believes transcends the sport. But here's where things get interesting. Eubank Jr. doesn't just think mental toughness is something you're born with. He believes it can be taught. He claims that unlocking a level of strength and resilience could change the game entirely. Could Eubank Jr. be right? Is mental toughness the key to winning this explosive showdown? The £1 million bet just turned up the heat, and Ben Shalom isn't holding back. In a shocking twist, Shalom confirmed that the bet is real, but with a massive change.
He gave it the big one to try and diminish Ben, didn't he? He tried to make Ben look silly by offering him a £1 million bet. And apparently, Eddie doesn't know the governance of his own sport. As a promoter, a licensed promoter, he can't bet. And so, of course, Chris has called him out. And now Eddie, being the master snake oil salesman he is suggesting that it's a conspiracy theory that people want him to take the bet so he can get fined on his license. Nonsense! He's the one that put the bet up!
It's no longer just a personal wager, it's now a full-on spectacle. Shalom is calling for a promoter's bonus, where the losing camp must pay up publicly. And the best part? Shalom is all in. He's got the framework, he's got the rules, and he's making it crystal clear. There will be no excuses, no loopholes, just pure hard cash. Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Jr. has already obliterated Eddie Hearn, labeling him a fraud, a coward, and a rat who will do anything to squirm out of his word. With Shalom doubling down, the pressure is skyrocketing. Will Hearn stand tall, or will he slither away as Eubank Jr. predicted? If he backs out now, it'll be more than just a defeat. It'll be a career-shattering humiliation. What do you think? Will Eddie Hearn rise to the challenge, or will he crumble under the pressure? On the flip side, Eddie Hearn thought he could outsmart everyone, but Simon Jordan wasted no time tearing him apart, exposing him for talking big and delivering.
It's quite difficult sometimes, especially if you're dry like Chris Eubank. He will struggle to stay within that £10 limit. I have a feeling he won't do it. I have a feeling he'll agree to it, he'll pay a fine and maybe weigh in 15 or 16 pounds over.
Who did he fight recently and he looked like he was completely dead at the weight?
Yeah, last fight.
Was it Liam Smith, the first one?
Yeah.
He looked like he looked awful.
Brutal. And that's how hard it is to make. That's why I think it's kind of the rehydration clause puts things slightly more into Conor Benn's favour.
Nothing. Hearn tried to throw a flashy £1 million bet into the mix, hoping to make himself look like a big shot. But here's the catch. He didn't even understand the rules of his own sport. As a licensed promoter, he legally can't place a bet, and Chris Eubank Jr. didn't hesitate to expose him. Instead of owning up to his blunder, Hearn is backpedaling, scrambling for excuses, and twisting the story to save face. The reality is, Simon Jordan wasn't having any of it. He called Hearn out for what he truly is, a slick talker trying to sell a lie. What's more, Hearn is now desperately spinning the situation into an imaginary conspiracy, acting as if everyone is out to get him. But here's where things get even more interesting. The truth is undeniable. Hearn talked himself into a corner and got humiliated in front of the entire boxing world.
I expect so. But Eubank Jr. is his own man, and that's what he's always tried to make out. This is me, this is my career, and this is how I do things. Dad, that was your era, that was your time, blah, 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 let me do this. But I'm sure he'd love to have him sat ringside watching him.
Joe Gallagher, always a pleasure, always good seeing you.
No way out, no excuses, just pure embarrassment for Hearn, who thought he was the smartest guy in the R on the other side. Carl Frampton didn't hold back in his comments on the TalkSport Boxing podcast, raising serious concerns about whether Chris Eubank Jr. can make the weight limit for his upcoming fight. Frampton pointed out that Eubank, especially when dehydrated, will struggle to stay within the required 10-pound difference. He even suggested that while Eubank might agree to the terms, there's a strong possibility he'll end up paying a fine and weighing in 15 to 16 pounds over the limit. Reflecting on Eubank's recent battle with Liam Smith, Frampton noted how drained and worn out Eubank looked, emphasizing just how tough it is for him to make weight. The bigger issue, according to Frampton, is the rehydration clause in the fight, which he believes heavily favors Conor Benn. This clause could work.
I think it'll be a mismatch, just as much a mismatch as the presses have been. It will be a similar format, playing out in the physical. Chris is way too much, and that will become evident as the rounds go on.
Against Eubank, making it even harder for him to recover and potentially tipping the scales in Benn's favor. Frampton is convinced that the weight issue isn't getting enough attention, and that it could play a massive role in the fight's outcome. On the other side, Joe Gallagher doesn't hold back when it comes to dissecting Chris Eubank Jr.'s obsession with carving out his own path. The reality is, Eubank Jr. is fiercely determined to break free from his father's shadow and create his own legacy, refusing to lean on his father's fame. But here's the twist. No matter how hard he tries to distance himself, there's an undeniable craving for validation that he refuses to acknowledge. Deep down, having his father in his corner, witnessing his dominance firsthand, would mean everything to him. It's the uncomfortable truth no one dares to speak out loud. The burning question is, can Eubank Jr. conquer the
Conor's his dad's son, and his dad's exactly the same. And the Eubanks and the Benns, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so there'll always be that family rivalry going on. And Chris's aloof personality, riles Conor, like his dad did, with their dads did. So he knows exactly what he's got to do.
Fort and reach the pinnacle of success without his father's guidance? Or is he forever doomed to fight against his own past, struggling for self-worth? The pressure is mounting, and the stakes have never been higher. Make no mistake, Eubank Jr. is running out of time to prove he can rise above his legacy. This isn't just about boxing, it's a battle for identity, redemption, and the chance to rewrite history. Making a bold statement about what's to come, Harlem Eubank believes this potential showdown is shaping up to be nothing short of a mismatch, a fight where one fighter is clearly outclassed. From the press conferences to the intense build-up, Harlem sees a clear divide between Chris Eubank Jr. and his opponent. And here's the catch. He's adamant that when the bell rings, the difference will only become more obvious. Chris Eubank Jr.'s size, power, and presence in the ring will dominate from the very first round. Harlem believes that as the rounds pass, his cousin will assert his dominance to the point where his opponent won't be able to handle it. Without a doubt, Harlem is confident this fight will turn into a one-sided beating, with Chris proving to be too much. But here's where it gets interesting. There's always room for the unexpected. Could a shocking upset throw the entire fight into chaos, or will Eubank Jr.'s superiority be undeniable? The fight is shaping up to be one for the books, and the pressure is on.